This one's a banquet for sailors. I push the far end of West Arm. I try fishing and hook my thumb instead. With Google's help, I wrench the barb free. We explore ashore, sail back on a brisk broad reach, and then nail the mooring line on the second attempt. No boat hook, just footwork. Stick around, like, subscribe and comment. I always reply.
Very sunny and still, 21st of September. While we're waiting for the southerly weather to go away and spring to arrive. Well, it's just about a perfect day on the river today. A little bit of glow plug, and you watch this, starts first time. Fit was a bit lesser than it should have been. Wind and tide in the same direction. And we're away. At least it didn't stall going into gear anyway. I need that kayak today because I'm going up into the York rivulet. Quite a few fish about, so it's worth dragging this along behind us. Just going past Shag Rock here. See back over my left shoulder. There's a reef that runs across here, but then there's deep water between there and the point. But the outflowing tide, you've got it pouring off the edge of the reef into this deeper basin here, and any self-respecting fish, this is where you'd be. We're on the incoming tide, and back on the mooring it was flowing in very strongly, but it's very interesting that that point that's on the inside of Shag Rock, it was still flowing out, or apparently flowing out very strongly. So obviously a bit of a major back eddy on the point there, and now that we're across that, there's very little tidal movement at all. Coming up you'll see Ajax. Another John Philp boat, cod boat I guess, and she's been restored by Rod Clark, prior to that restored by John Philp. By the amount of tension on that line, so I'm definitely not fishing. Last time I did that.
There I was, fishing for dinner, and somehow I became the catch. A treble hook buried itself right up to the hilt in the joint of my right thumb. I twisted, I pulled, I grimaced. Nothing. Funny thing, a fish can wriggle off a hook with a flick, but once it's in your flesh, it's like it's welded in. After a few minutes of pointless tugging, I did the modern thing. I Googled it. Somehow, in the middle of the macabre circus, I seemed to sprout a third hand. One to hold the phone, one to wipe the sweat from my brow, and one still impaled on the hook. And the internet, ever helpful, offered a smorgasbord of ways to unhook myself. There was the string yank method. Loop some braid around the hook, press the shank in and give it a violent jerk. Push it through and cut off the barb. Delightful. Cover the barb with the needle and slide it out. Sure, if you carry a sterile needle in your tackle box, or just back it out, make a bigger hole. Appealing. All very sensible, all very professional. I, of course, ignored every one of them at first. I tried my own way: push, pull, grimace, repeat. My body screamed, "Don't do it." My thumb throbbed and the hook stayed put. Finally beaten, I looped the braid as instructed, pushed the shank hard into the flesh and prepared to yank. Every fibre in my body resisted. Deep breath and yank! Out it came, clean as a whistle. Relief, shock, and a small spray of sweat. No needles, no cutting, just a stubborn bloke, a phone balanced on a phantom third hand, and a bit of string. Against all odds and good sense, it worked beautifully. The fish might still escape, but this time, so did I.
Just going past the last pylon before the ski beach across the other side here. We've been there before with the carved cliffs. There's a bit of wind chill there today. Southwesterly starting to kick in. Top temperature is predicted to be about 13 today. Means for most of the day it'll be around 10. This is a nice little spot to toss an anchor in. First time I was used my flash new anchor box. Now we'll see where that pulls us up. This is West Arm, and it's a little bit deeper than I thought it would be. Plenty of water here, about 3.5 metres, and we're only at half tide. And beautiful little anchorage here, where the locals have put up a table and chairs up the top of the hill there. So I'm going to jump in the kayak and paddle around and see if I can get a few decent shots. explore a bit of the shoreline. So we'll climb up here. Not too bad. Good exercise. And as is often the case, this is a foreshore reservoir. Back down to the kayak. Yeah. It's a slippery slope there. Could have ended up in the water almost. So that tide has come in, lapping around the end of the kayak now. That's not too good. Sit on the seat. Oh dear. Now we're away. Good ass. Boot full of water. Some interesting rock formations down here. Here and there you see this seam of iron ore that runs through, and there was in fact an iron ore mine, some kind of a processing plant over there at Rabdell Point. And then you get down this little bit further and it's beautiful sandstone, same as on the ski beach. I wonder how much water there is between these two rocks here. Looks like I might be able to just squeeze through. I had a bit of trouble with my avionics just then, telling me I was on dry land when I was in the middle of the channel, I think. But it gives you a bit of a fright when you look up and you see you're in the middle of the yellow stuff, so I had to reboot it. It's showing you the real deal. It says alarm's gone off. It's about 1.4 metres to 1.7. I decided to change the rigging on the main shed partly decided, partly determined because something fell apart. And I've been thinking about it for a while, so I've just been experimenting, and I'll give you a look at it in a minute.
At anchor on West Arm, I set myself a simple challenge: to get all the way back to the mooring under sail without touching the motor. There was a light northwesterly pushing in, just enough to work with. I unfurled the main, gave the boom a nudge with my foot, not textbook seamanship, but very effective. With the jib up, I backwinded it to drift Sarah Ann off the anchor and get her moving. The plan was to run east along West Arm and then round Anchorage Point, which, despite its name, is the one place that you're not allowed to anchor, thanks to the submarine cables. From there, I'd head out on a reach towards the northeast, out towards Bass Strait, before tacking back up the river against the tide to the mooring on the western shore. It all sounded neat in my head. Out here, with the boat finally moving, it was time to see if the river agreed.
Doing a good solid 3 knots now, and I'm sitting down here in the cockpit because I'm out of the way of that boom. If it decides to swing across it, then I have to think about it. You can see my new setup here. Still an experiment, but I was going to build a horse across there, but I don't believe I'll do that now. This is the original configuration that John had. And that's it. So lining up now. Past them. Let's do it across.
After rounding Anchorage Point, I held north on a starboard tack. At first the wind had a bit of east in it, like it couldn't quite decide, but then it swung around clean to the northwest, building to a steady 10 or 15 knots. I tacked to port and Sarah Ann came alive. She drove forward on a brisk broad reach, sails full, wake stretching behind. This is what she was built for. Sailing has a way of teaching you. One challenge follows another, shifting winds, running tide, the odd mistake thrown in, and you work though through them one at a time. Out here, with the boat steady and the breeze filling the sails, you get space to think. It strips life back to the simple things: trim, balance, direction. Somehow, it restores the soul. Crossing to Pipe Clay Bay, with Georgetown on the lee shore, Sarah Ann felt perfectly balanced, quick and sure. For a while everything lined up: the boat, the wind, and my own thoughts. The sweet spot for Sarah Ann's full set of sails is 10 to 12 knots. That's when she feels balanced and alive. By 15 she starts to show her tender side, heeling hard in the gusts, ballast or not. Manageable, yes, but it keeps you on your toes. One day I'd like to put a furler on the headsail just to take the edge off when the wind pipes up. For now, I make do. On this angle she wasn't sailing quite as efficiently. The rudder worked like a handbrake, correcting the weather helm and bleeding a bit of speed. But the lively part didn't last for long. After a short, vigorous run, the wind began to ease. Enough left in it for the final tack back towards the mooring, but the bite was gone. Sailing has a way of reminding you how brief moments can be. One moment the boat's alive, straining against a rig. and next she's easing back into calm. Life feels much the same. Flashes of energy and challenge, followed by quieter stretches. Both have their place. Both keep you moving forward.
Whoa. It's quite strong. Yeah, I think you better, because you've just added one extra thing to my list of things I'm doing. So, yeah.
I spent much of my working life chasing things. Money, possessions, the next deal. It took energy and it cost time. Time with my children, time with my wife. Even when I was at home, I wasn't really there. My mind was elsewhere, scheming, worrying, strategizing how to get more. And then, at 53, everything stopped. A severe heart attack. In that moment, I saw all for what it was, a house of cards. Ecclesiastes says it well, vanity of vanities, all is vanity. Riches can be swept away in the blink of an eye, and what good are they if you've traded away the moments that matter most? But Ecclesiastes doesn't leave us there. It reminds us that there is a time for every purpose under heaven. A time to work, yes, but also a time to laugh with your children, to hold your wife's hand, to eat, to drink, and find joy in the simple gifts of God. My heart attack turned me. It opened my eyes to what truly counts. You can't replace lost years, but you can choose differently with the years that you have left. For me, it's no longer about striving for what fades. It's about seeking what lasts. Love, presence, faith, and joy in small things. Because in the end, that is the gift of God, not the wealth that we pile up, but the life that we actually live. I'd done all the sums in my head, the tack, the tide, the final approach. That's what sailors do. You plan your way forward. But there's that old line, a man makes his plans in his heart, but the Lord directs his steps. It's much the same out here. You think you've got it all worked out, and then the wind shifts or the tide runs the other way, and you're reminded who's really in charge. Or as John Lennon once put it, life is what happens while you're busy making other plans. Out here on the water, you feel the truth of that. You aim, you adjust, and you learn to live with the surprises.
Gust.
It's interesting what goes through a sailor's mind as you close in on a mooring under sail. There are so many variables at play. Some you can allow for, others you can't. This time it was all in easy conditions, no swell, no real weight of wind, but throw in a bit of chop and a few extra knots, and you quickly see the value of these quieter moments. They give you a chance to learn and to get it wrong without too much being on the line. Even so, the tension builds as you get closer to the target. By now the breeze was getting fluky. One moment the sails drew, the next minute they sagged. Sarah Ann was on the edge of ghosting along, always with the risk of losing steerage way altogether. It's part of the test. You plan, you line things up, but you also accept that control is never complete. Out here on the water, you live with what the wind decides to throw at you. The teacher in Ecclesiastes searched out every path, wealth, work, pleasure, wisdom itself, and he found it all chasing after the wind. True wisdom, he discovered, isn't what we accumulate or achieve, It's in remembering God, in recognizing that our times are in his hands. There is a time to be born and a time to die, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance. My heart attack was my wake-up call. It pulled me out of the fog of striving and back into the reality of what matters. True wisdom is not measured by what's in the bank, but by how present we are with the people that we love, how open we are to joy, how faithful we are to God. I can't get back the years that I lost, but I can live differently now. Ecclesiastes says, "Eat your bread with joy, drink your wine with a merry heart. Enjoy life with the wife you love all the days that God has given to you." That's wisdom. To receive each day as a gift, to stop chasing after the wind, and to walk humbly with the one who gives it all.
Oh, the wind's back.
It's a bit ironic, isn't it, that in sailing, all we do is chase after the wind. But even then, we're not really chasing. We're learning to work with it, to set the sail, trim the sheet, and let it carry us. Life's much the same. You can waste years chasing things that you'll never catch. I learned the hard way. My heart attack at 53 showed me that all my striving for money and things was like booting on sand. Ecclesiastes puts it bluntly, chasing after the wind, but it also says that there's a better way, to enjoy the simple things, to do good, and to be present in the time that we're given. That's where Proverbs helps. Better a little peace than great treasure with turmoil. Or a joyful heart is good medicine. These are not lofty ideals, they're practical wisdom. They tell us to invest in people, not possessions, to value peace over pressure, to slow down enough to enjoy a meal, a laugh, a walk with someone that you love. And the good news is it's never too late to realign. Mistakes don't disqualify us. Even wasted years can teach us what matters now. If you've spent a lifetime chasing the wrong things, start today by chasing the right ones. Presence, gratitude, kindness, faithfulness. Because in the end, a life well spent isn't measured by what you pile up, but in the joy that you shared, the love you gave, and the peace that you carried. That's a reward worth having. .9. 1 knot. I lined Sarah Ann up for her final approach. The sails were drawing enough, but the wind was patchy. I pictured it all working smoothly, glide in, lean over the bow, scoop up the mooring line, and look like I'd meant it all along. Of course, the boat had other ideas. As we closed in, she gave a little heel, raising the freeboard just enough to put the rope out of my reach. My hand stretched to full length, fingers brushing the water, but the line slid past. That was the first pass gone. And it looks like the loop on the mooring is laying upstream, which is the opposite of what you'd expect. So that's definitely a back eddy, and that's why we're doing 2 knots over the ground. So we're getting close. And what's that wind doing? Still coming out of the northwest. So yeah, that's the plan. Plan is to keep the momentum, and then because the current is actually going back towards Launceston at this point, I can round up into the wind that off. I think I got enough momentum here. Let's see how good I am. And
blimey. Oh, missed it by that much. Wow, I just had it on the tips of my finger.
So, round again we go. The tide was pushing, the wind was dropping, and it wasn't looking promising, I have to say. I set her up for another go, trying not to think too hard about missing a second time. As we came by, I reached again, nothing, but one quick sweep of my foot, I hooked the line and dragged it aboard. Not in the handbook, but it worked. A mooring picked up by bare toes. Sarah Ann was secure, and that was the sail finished, not with grace, but with a certain sense of stubborn satisfaction. And maybe that's the point. Life doesn't always reward neat seamanship. Sometimes you scrape by, sometimes you improvise, and sometimes you hook the wind with your foot. It may not look elegant, but it still counts. I thought no one had seen my antics, but later discovered that my wife had been watching the whole thing from the lounge at home. Highly entertaining for her, I'm sure, less so for me.